Good morning, contestants, and welcome to this week's edition of the popular game show, Will It Animate? America's favorite quiz show. In case you've forgotten, the game works like this. Contestants are shown brief website video demos and asked to identify whether the animations on them can be made using only CSS and HTML. Let's jump right into it. So you make a beautiful website, awesome landing page, but you have to wonder, how are your users going to know that they need to scroll down? The answer? This beautiful, black, bouncing triangle. Looks good, but the question is, will it animate? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Did you say yes? If so, you are correct. Let's go one more. Down to the content. Beautiful mountains and text. What would make it even better? A spinning red flag. Looks good, but the question is, will it animate? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Did you say no? If so, you're wrong. The answer is yes, it will animate. Did you answer both questions correctly? If so, you are the lucky winner of 5 seconds of cute baby pictures. Anyways, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for joining me. Join me again next week for another exciting edition of Will It Animate? America's favorite quiz show. CSS animations. I'm going to show you guys how to make this cool twirling flag. I know you've all, you're also excited to learn that. Super useful. But in all seriousness, CSS animations are really powerful and they have a lot of good uses. First, to MDN. They say it pretty well here. CSS animations make it possible to animate transitions from one CSS style configuration to another. Animations consist of 2 components. First, a style describing the animation, and second, a set of keyframes that indicate the start and end states of the animation style. So, we see that here. First component, describing the animation. Second, we just define the animation with starting point, ending point, and intermediate. When we describe the animation on the element, there are a few arguments that are expected here, and let's look and see exactly what they're looking for. We have a duration, we have a name for the animation, and then we have an iteration account. And the iteration count, my bad. So the iteration count is just how many times you want the animation to run. Yeah, so you could just have it run once and then be done. Or if you specify infinite, it will never stop running. So here we name our animation wave. We give it a 4-second runtime. So if we go back and we watch it, it will go through one whole cycle in 4 seconds. So 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000. So in that time it spins around 2 entire spins, whatever. This here is just to make it run more smoothly. That's the easing in and out of it. And then infinite I specify here so it will never stop running. So we've described our animation wave here, and we define it with @keyframes and then the name, and then anything inside these brackets is our wave animation. So 0% at the start of our animation, this will apply. Okay, at the end of our animation, this will apply. And then halfway through, or at 2 seconds, in this specific example, this animation will apply. And all I'm doing in these is, I'm saying, have it rotate 0 degrees to start, and then halfway through, have it rotate 360 degrees, and then at the end of the animation, have it go back to 0. And one key point just to note here is this transition. Without a transition, it will jump from one. Actually, I don't think it will. I guess we can test that. Let's do some empirical testing here. Let's hover that. And then let's see if I were to... Okay, yeah, we don't need a transition for the animation. Good to know. So yeah, that's it. If we follow it here, halfway through, we'll have spun once, and then the other half we'll spin another time. Here's another quick example of CSS animations. We have each of these little blocks is a color, and on hover they're given an animation called rainbow that runs in 1 second and is infinite. And if we look at that animation, it starts giving it a red background and then yellow, blue, and green. So as you can imagine, you hover and it changes all those colors infinitely, never stopping. Awesome stuff. CSS Grid. So to start out, I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction taken from some thoughts given by Jen Simmons. And I would highly recommend you visiting her website, jensimmons.com, and looking at some of her videos here. The one specifically that I'm going to refer to is this one, Designing with Grid. In this video, she talks about the official timeline of the evolution of web page layout. And some of these things we've seen or had experience with. It started out with the no layout where everything was square, then moved on to the table-based layouts, which were very hacky. Then, similar to what we did in one of our CSS projects, the hand-coded float layouts, so without using Flexbox, trying to find that holy grail is very difficult, very fragile. Then, currently, we've moved on with Flexbox, with Bootstrap to framework layouts, or black box layouts, if you will, where there's a template, and we use it, and all our websites end up looking basically the same. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with this, but the idea that she proposes is that that's not the future. That's not the end of this evolution, that we're going to move on to amazing things in the future. And one of those things is CSS Grid, according to her. One other analogy I like to share that she uses is this silent film I like to show you guys. So it was made in 1986. It's just, all it consists of is two actors kissing. And as you can see, they seem to pose for a kiss, and then they sort of reset to pose again for a kiss. And she says, Jen Simmons says that it's interesting to see that interaction today when we're really used to seeing videos and movies, because it seems as if they don't understand what it means to be in a video or a moving picture, so they treat it as if it were a picture, a still frame. They pose, and they reset, and they pose. And Jen Simmons says that we treat web design similarly, that we treat it how we might treat, graphic design for posters or books or whatever that might be. And she says that there's a bright future for web design, and there's a whole field and a whole realm of things yet to be made and done. And CSS Grid is one of these great things, I believe. So let's jump into it. I think the best way to do this is just by example. Let's look at some examples of CSS Grid. So here we have one of Jen Simmons' examples, actually, of a Monopoly board. And let's look here. You define display grid on the parent, which is this UL, unordered list. And on that parent, you specify a few things, including columns, and rows. So your columns here, we're just saying we want 5 columns, each of them 10% of the vertical width. So as you can see, we've got 5 columns and then 5 rows. Same thing with the rows. 5 rows, 10% of the vertical width tall. And then we say a little farther down, grid gap 1 rem. So the gap between the rows and the columns is 1 rem. And that's it for the grid. And then when you go to the child elements, you specify the row and column, which essentially, if you think about it as a coordinate, that's the easiest way to think about it. So this li here is going to be put on the position 1, 1. This one, we're going to put in 1, 2, and so on and so forth. So this one's going to be 5, 5 in the corner, the bottom right corner, and then 3, 1, blah, blah, blah. And that makes a really nice square with little squares in it on the edges. Which, if you try to think about how you would do this in any other way, it's difficult. And with Flexbox, it would be Definitely more doable than I would say any other way, but other than CSS Grid. CSS Grid makes it really simple. Example number two. This guy has a nice footer. Or it looks really scary. It's got a lot of columns and rows. So let's look at that. We have display grid. We have grid gap 0.3 rem. Columns, we have 8 columns, each of them 1 FR. And that's a new unit with CSS Grid. The FR means, as you can guess, it's a fraction of the available space. So we have 8 equally sized columns. Okay. For the rows, we have a minimum of 4 rem and a maximum of 1 fraction. Same thing with the second row. Third row is going to be 5 pixels, which is essentially, it's a way to just make space. You just throw in an empty row with whatever height or width you want. And then we have a 1 FR, and then 35 pixel row. Yes. Now last example, this one demonstrates a different property of grid. So here we have a grid container. The columns are 2 fractions, 1 fraction, so the first one's twice as big as the second one. The row is 60 pixels, and then 100%, and then that repeats 3 times. But here we see a new style rule, grid template areas. And if you read along here, each one of these essentially represents 1 row. And we're saying, on this row, our first column is going to be side 1, and the second column is going to be pick. In the next row, the first column is going to be main 1, and then it's going to be pick, and all the way down. So if you see here, if we look at these, we have in this applicant square that is going to be grid area side 1, and then pick. And then in this financial aid, main 1, and then pick. And in the first year's side 2, pick, all the way down. And in these divs, all we're going to specify is grid area, and then the name that we gave it in this grid template area. And that'll put it in that spot. So we have side 1, side 2, side 3, main 1, main 2, main 3, and then pick. We just told it was going to be in the area pick, and we specified here that the pick would be on the second column of each of these rows, so it spans the entire thing. So that's pretty cool.